Your mother never told you what really happened the day you were born. Be ready for what? Archangel Michael says, there is a truth hidden so deep, it was locked away from you since the very moment you took your first breath. The day you were born was not an ordinary day, and what happened in those hours was not written in any hospital record or family story. It was an event that shook destinies, changed hearts, and altered the path of your life forever. The air that day carried something unusual, an energy so strong that it left a mark on everyone present. People whispered in corners, eyes exchanged silent messages, and someone, far away from the delivery room, felt their entire world shift without knowing why. Your arrival was wrapped in a chain of events that only a few dared to remember. A decision was made before you were even placed in your mother's arms. Certain hands touched you, certain words were spoken over you, and from that moment, a protection as well as a curse followed your steps. This truth was never meant to reach you, but heaven is breaking the seal today. The truth is layered like glass, transparent yet sharp enough to cut. One layer is love, another is fear, and the deepest one is a secret too heavy for your mother to carry. She loved you enough to keep it locked away, but the time for silence is over. Type Amen to get blessing 333. Archangel Michael says, that day was marked by strange signs, signs others would dismiss, but heaven noticed. The clock struck a time that would later appear in your dreams. A shadow passed over the window though the sun was high, and a certain person entered the room quietly, leaving something behind before vanishing forever. There were voices in the hallway, some crying, some laughing, but one stood out, low, trembling, and almost chanting. It was not a doctor, not a nurse, and not a family member. They spoke words over your name, words that set your journey in motion. As you cried for the first time, your cry echoed differently, almost as if the walls listened. Those present felt a strange stillness, a pause, like the earth holding its breath. In that pause, heaven and earth exchanged something about you. Your mother saw something in your eyes when she first looked at you, a flicker that didn't belong to this world. That flicker terrified her and comforted her at the same time. She held you tighter, promising silently that no matter what, she would protect you from the truth for as long as she could. Type Amen to get blessing 444. There was a name written for you before your birth, but on that day, it was changed at the last minute. The one who suggested the change disappeared from your life shortly after. They knew that name carried a certain weight, and replacing it might shield you from something dangerous. Not everyone in the room was happy you were born. One person left quickly, unable to hide the storm brewing in their heart. Their connection to you was deeper than anyone admitted, and their departure that day was the beginning of a hidden battle over your life. Your father, whether present or absent, was affected in ways you were never told. Something about your birth altered his choices, made him act in ways you couldn't understand later. But it all traces back to that one day, that one room, and the moment your heartbeat entered the world. Somebody outside the family had been waiting for your arrival. They weren't there physically, but they knew. The moment you were born, their life shifted too, as if an unseen thread tied them to you forever. Type Amen to get blessing 555. Archangel Michael says, your birth wasn't just about a child entering the world, it was about a prophecy unfolding. Long before, certain events aligned to ensure you would be born on that exact day, at that exact time, under those exact conditions. There were whispers among older relatives, stories half told and cut short when you entered the room. They feared your curiosity, feared that if you knew too soon, you would change the course of what had been planned for you. That day, something was taken from the hospital without anyone noticing. It was small enough to fit in a hand but powerful enough to hold your energy in it. This object still exists somewhere, carrying a piece of that day within it. Your mother kept certain papers locked away for years. Birth certificates, letters, and even a sealed envelope marked with a date she never spoke of. These are not just documents, they are pieces of the truth she could never say aloud. Type Amen to get blessing 222. From the moment you were born, certain people began watching from a distance. Some with love, others with envy, and a few with intentions darker than the night. You felt their presence at certain points in your life without knowing who they were. The room where you were born had seen many births before and after, but yours left something behind. Even years later, the staff remembered the energy of that day, though they couldn't explain it. It was as if an unseen presence lingered for hours after you left. Your cry that day was heard by someone who wasn't supposed to hear it. That person's path would later cross yours in a way that would change both your lives. It was not coincidence, it was written from the very beginning. And through all of this, your mother carried the truth like a stone in her heart. Every year on your birthday, she would pause at a certain moment, lost in thought, as if replaying something no one else could see. Type Amen to get blessing 999. That day, clouds formed in a clear sky. The weather shifted unexpectedly, as if the air itself was reacting to your arrival. It wasn't just a birth, it was the arrival of a soul carrying a mission too big to be understood then. An older woman in the room, who wasn't family, looked at you differently. She didn't smile, didn't coo, she studied you like she knew exactly who you were meant to become. Then she whispered something to your mother that made her eyes widen. There was an unplanned delay before your birth, a moment where everything seemed to stop. Doctors moved slower, nurses hesitated, and time seemed to stretch. That pause was not medical, it was spiritual. Somewhere in that pause, a choice was made. A choice that would keep you alive, but also place a weight on your shoulders you wouldn't feel until years later. And your mother, knowing what was decided, kept her silence until the day she left this world. Type Amen to get blessing 777. The people who left the hospital that day each carried their own version of the story. Some swore they saw nothing unusual, while others never spoke about it again, their silence louder than any words. The few who knew the full truth avoided your eyes in the years that followed, afraid the truth might spill without warning. Your birth certificate tells one story, but the energy of that day tells another. There's an hour recorded on paper, but that hour does not match the moment your soul entered this world. Between those two moments is where the real secret lies, hidden from your awareness for decades. Archangel Michael says, "The heavens marked your arrival with a seal, unseen by human eyes but visible to those who move in spiritual realms." This seal carried both protection and burden, ensuring you could not be easily destroyed yet keeping you in constant watch. That is why certain obstacles have always seemed unnatural in your life. Even before you could walk, unseen forces began moving pieces around you. Some hands protected you without you knowing, while others tried to block your path before it began. It was a silent tug of war, all because of what was set into motion on the day you were born. Type Amen to get blessing 111. Your mother never told you about the visitor who came the night before your birth. They stood at her bedside, speaking in a low voice, telling her that once you arrived, nothing in her life would be the same. She thought it was just a strange dream, but the face of that visitor stayed with her forever. The day you were born, the air inside that hospital room felt colder than it should have been. Even wrapped in blankets, people felt a chill, as if a doorway had been opened to somewhere else. No one spoke about it openly, but eyes darted toward the corners of the room like they expected something to appear. There was a moment when your mother looked into your eyes for the first time, and she almost pulled away. Not from fear, but from shock, because she saw recognition. As if you had known her long before that day. One nurse present later confessed to a colleague that she felt an overwhelming urge to protect you, even though she had delivered hundreds of babies before. She said something about your energy felt different, like you didn't just arrive, you returned. Type Amen to get blessing 333. Archangel Michael says, the clock in your birth room stopped for 3 minutes that day, then began ticking again. No one could explain it, and the staff wrote it off as a malfunction. But those 3 minutes were when your destiny was sealed. A person in the hospital waiting room, unrelated to your family, broke down crying without knowing why. They couldn't hear your name, couldn't see your face, yet their soul recognized something in the air. They left that day changed forever. Your mother held you tighter than she ever would again, whispering words you were too young to understand. Those words were not just a welcome, but a shield, meant to guard you from the very thing that tried to reach you that day. Somewhere in another part of the building, a stranger wrote down your birth date and time in a notebook, then walked away into the night. That notebook still exists, and the one who owns it still watches you from a distance. Type Amen to get blessing 444. The moment your cry filled the room, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, even though they were sealed shut. Nurses looked at each other, unsettled, but quickly returned to their work. They didn't want to admit something beyond their understanding had happened. Your birth was supposed to take place hours later, but it happened sooner, almost as if someone, or something, had pushed events forward. That change in timing prevented something from occurring, though no one told you what. An elderly man who passed by your room stopped in his tracks, staring inside. He didn't speak, didn't smile, just looked at you with a knowing sadness, then turned and disappeared down the hall. No one knew his name or why he was there. Your mother later described the first night with you as the most peaceful and the most restless at the same time. Peaceful because you slept soundly, restless because she felt an unseen presence standing by your crib until dawn. Type Amen to get blessing 555. There was one photograph taken of you that day that no one has seen since. In it, there's a faint light above your head, a glow that wasn't in the room. The camera was old, incapable of such effects, yet the glow was real. Archangel Michael says, that glow was the mark of the promise made over your life before birth. It drew protectors toward you but also attracted those who would seek to use you. That dual pull has followed you into every stage of your life. Someone who loved your mother deeply but could not be with her was present that day. They left before seeing you, but they stood outside the building for hours, watching the window where you lay. Their footsteps in the snow or rain were the silent witness to your beginning. From that day forward, certain doors in your life would open too easily, and others would remain shut no matter how hard you tried. This was not luck or misfortune, it was the alignment set in place at your first breath. Type Amen to get blessing 222. That night, long after visitors had gone and the halls fell silent, something strange happened in your room. The monitor beside your crib flickered for no reason, numbers changing briefly before returning to normal. The nurse on duty glanced over but said nothing, though her eyes followed the empty corner as if she saw movement. Your mother woke suddenly, her instincts sharper than they had ever been. She swore she heard a soft humming, almost like a lullaby, coming from nowhere. The sound stopped the moment she turned her head. Archangel Michael says, that was not just a sound, it was a signal. A confirmation that your birth had been noticed beyond this world, and those who noticed were not all on the same side. From that night on, you were no longer just a child, you were a marked soul. Somewhere in the city, miles from the hospital, another person awoke at the exact same time.